The government to create 66,000 jobs. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I've got my stein of coffee, and I thought we'd have a look at this news.com.au article discussing the government's push for deregulation in the hopes that they will create 66,000 jobs. Now, I'm all for deregulation. I think it needs to be a lot easier to hire and fire people in this civilization, because if it's easier to hire them and easier to fire them, there's more incentive for businesses to take that risk, take that plunge. Because right now, hiring someone, well, the more rules you have, the more regulations you have, the more discriminatory policies you have, the more opportunities you expose yourself to getting sued. All of that creates incentives for people to offshore work or to automate or to avoid exposing themselves to that risk. We're usually having an employer. Having an employee should be a good thing, should be a positive thing. You're helping someone, build up their own wealth. They're helping you build up your own wealth. It's meant to be a complementary relationship. Maybe that's just too old-fashioned, isn't it? And I've been suggesting we need to look at some innovative ideas, not just property. That's all they're going to throw the money at. I'd like special economic regions where we experiment with different approaches to the economy. Maybe looking what the impact would be to remove a fuel excise, reduce taxation, or maybe even have a flat taxation for all the people in those areas. Too exciting, too new, too innovative? Do you think there's a political will for that in our nation? I don't know. Maybe. We'll have to see. The more people get involved, the better. So let's have a look. Scott Morrison pushes deregulation to create 66,000 jobs. Scott Morrison will reveal a major plan to drag the country out of recession and create more than 66,000 jobs in an address today. Prime Minister Scott Morrison is again pushing for all sectors of the economy to work together to change existing systems to speed up infrastructure projects and drag the country out of recession. Seems like it's more of the same. In an address to CEDA, State of the Nation Conference in Canberra on Monday, Mr. Morrison will again push his JobMaker scheme, urging a modernisation of how Australians approach the economy. Mr. Morrison said joint assessment teams would work on accelerating the projects worth more than $77 billion in public and private investment and supporting more than 66,000 jobs directly and indirectly. Feels like a bunch of rent seekers, doesn't it? Our number one priority is getting people back into jobs. And they need to be real productive jobs. Jobs that produce goods and services that people want, he will tell the conference. Well, there's a lot of people in jobs that aren't producing any goods or services people want. Big bureaucracy, but that's another topic. He will further address two components of the JobMaker plan. First, announced last month, infrastructure and major project investment and deregulation. This is the thing with infrastructure. If we're going to go into debt for our civilization, let's make sure it's something that will ensure the viability of our civilization in times to come. Everything seems to have been ploughed into housing, and then everything's ploughed into roads. We need to get more potable water. We need to be able to ensure the future viability of our manufacturing industry, or even a manufacturing industry, by getting significantly cheaper power. And I know you'll get all these people going, Australia can be a leader in solar power because we have a desert, which is just demonstrates a lack of understanding of the challenges that we face. We are a leader. We're a leader in importing crap and putting up the cost of things in our civilization. That's simply what we are. Under the JobMaker plan, 5 working groups made up of government, unions and business groups will look at industrial relations reform designed to help the pandemic recovery. Well, let's see. Maybe this can be a benefit. It can be a benefit to our civilization if we can get reform in industrial relation. Then next, we need taxation reform. We need industrial relation reform. We need taxation reform. I would hope we have more liberty-minded and free market people at these tables to kind of reduce the burden of the state on its citizens. Do you think that will happen? They will review awards, enterprise bargaining agreements, casual work, union and employer misconduct, and greenfield agreements that set flat wages and conditions throughout the lifetime of a construction project. It's part of the government's drive to end as quickly as possible the first recession in 29 years, blamed mostly on the restrictions forced by the pandemic. Well, yeah, this recession, well, this is the bubble that has popped our situation. We're in massive debt. We're in massive debt. We're a primitive economy on a global level. We're exporting, unmodified natural resources, mostly. Around the world, we're heavily dependent on our Asian neighbors. We're a proxy for the Chinese economy for foreign investors with regards to the Australian dollar. And we're throwing everything in property. Everything in housing. Everything in housing. And this is the thing. In our architectural practice, most of the work we do is not in housing. It's in education. It's in mining. It's in other things like that. Maybe I should have gone in housing. Yeah, but then I have to pretend I care about the type of tap someone selects. There's a whole thing to be an architect working in housing. I don't think I can pull it off, guys. Mr. Morrison will say the government has already committed nearly $180 billion on infrastructure over the next decade, with more than half allocated across the 4 years of the forward estimates. We'll also announce a further $1.5 billion to immediately start work on small priority projects identified by these states and territories. These shovel-ready projects include the Inland Rail project from Melbourne to Brisbane, the Marinus undersea electricity link between Tasmania and Victoria, the Olympic Dam extension in South Australia, emergency town water projects in New South Wales, and road, rail, and iron ore projects in Western Australia. Of course, it has to be iron ore. But then again, iron ore is, gone up. It's $100 US last time I checked. Hang on, I'll jump. Let's have a look here. Commodities. Iron ore should be at the top. It's the most important one to the world. Well, most important one to Australia. What are we looking at here? Come on. 62 FE is 102. Iron ore is 105. Pretty good. Pretty good. It's been a big jump. And that's going to be luck. Let's hope we don't waste that jump. So further announcements on specific projects will be made soon, but it will also urge a rethink of deregulation issues. It's going to be a long, tough road out of this crisis, but Australia is doing better than many other countries, and we're heading in the right direction. Our government is going to continue to do everything it can to ensure Australia bounces back stronger on the other side. And here's the thing, if we can get regulatory change, if this can be the impetus to force these parties to come together and realize, okay, some of these expectations are unrealistic. We've got a sense of entitlement as a civilization that maybe we need to make a change. We'll all be better off in the long run. But I don't know. I think it's going to be more of the same and a lot of political posturing. Maybe I'm getting too cynical and old. All levels of government, business, and the community must rethink how these systems can better contribute to our recovery from the pandemic, he will say. We need to bring the same common sense and cooperation we showed fighting the pandemic to unlock infrastructure investment in the recovery. He said many states had already cut approval times. And this is, local councils need to do that. Local councils need to get rid of the red tape, need to give people more control over their own land. I've asked them to lift their ambition further and work with us through the National Cabinet to make deregulation a focus of Australia's economic recovery. Cities and Urban Infrastructure Minister Alan Tudge said the aim was to get big projects moving quickly, which would include putting more resources up front in the assessment process and making the process parallel rather than sequential. He said states were 100% on board wanting to get these projects done fast, so many of those large-scale projects can take 3 or 4 years before they actually get going. So we want to reduce the time frame in half, he told Channel 7's Sunrise program on Monday. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg earlier in June confirmed Australia was in recession after the economy shrank 0.3% in the March quarter ahead of a much larger fall expected in the current June quarter. The pandemic could see government debt blow out by $620 billion by the end of the decade, the PBO has found. Mr. Frydenberg will provide a budget update on July 23rd. So there you go, everyone. Calls for more deregulation. What do you think? Do you think we'll see innovation, or will it be more of the same? What type of projects do you think we should be investing in as a civilization? Potable water, cheaper energy, or importing more solar panels and wind farms? I'm very skeptical of a lot of the renewable pushes for energy just because our power prices have gone up. They have significantly gone up. And I keep seeing I keep seeing, and this is the website I refer to here, the energy market, everyone. And we can see here the energy market. And look, it's actually pretty good at the moment. We've got a whole lot of wind producing over 47%, 72%, 60%. That's fantastic. That's good. The number of times I go to this website and it's sitting at green. So we've invested a lot of CapEx, a lot of investment, one way or another, into this infrastructure that isn't producing. Look here, look at all the solar. 7%, 9%, 15%, 11%. And even this stuff that's located in the middle of nowhere, if you want to get it to the places where it's demanded, there's a loss there. So it's a complex issue. But I think we need to look at a range of solutions. We don't need to put all our eggs in one basket. I'd love to see nuclear actually explored in Australia. I drove to Ipswich the other day and they said a nuclear-free zone, the completest, stupidest sign you could put up. Nuclear medicine is fantastic. It saves a lot of lives. It's technology we should be at the forefront of. It's an advanced industry that we've got really, there's calls for, why didn't Australia get nuclear subs? We don't have the civilian industry to even hope of having that capacity. And people are scared of it just because they don't understand. So let's see what comes out of this. Let's see if there's some innovation. It's some good news. Deregulation could work to our benefits. It can streamline a lot of things. And hopefully a positive will come out of this. There'll be some discussions and some changes. What do you think, everyone? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below, please. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the work I do here, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us via our affiliate links at Amazon or eBay or Independent Reserve and Kucoin. You can buy our merch from HeiseSays. You can support us via PayPal, or you can also use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint. Take care. I'll see you next time.